What's up, everyone, and welcome into Victor Sports Talk. We got a quick little podcast for you today where we have a big announcement coming up at the end that you're not going to want to miss. But we want to welcome you in to today's episode of Victor Sports Talk, and we're going to talk a little about everything. We have UFC 292 that just happened and a title change that many people knew it could happen, but come on, let's face it, we really didn't know what was going to happen. We, of course, got baseball to talk about as we're kind of getting close to where they're about to start calling some guys up, filling up some rosters, and getting ready for the playoffs. We already kind of know which teams are going to be in there and which teams better luck next year. Go along with my Detroit Tigers. Come on. It's always the next year for us. Just can't seem to quite get it right. And then we're going to talk about this fighting. I've been asked a lot about fighting and sports and practices, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on two particular instances that I was asked to give my take on particularly, and two teams that I feel are headed in two different paths by the fighting in their organization. And then we're going to wrap it up with my Texas high school football game of the week because we have a big matchup down here in San Antonio as things get going all across the state of Texas. And then a big announcement as to what's to come for the rest of the week and the future for our show, Victor Sports Talk. So let's go ahead and get going with UFC 292. Zhang Weili, come on. Everybody figured she was going to win, and she won, and she got it done. There was a little bit of time where she got a little rocky, and there was some concern, but come on, we all kind of figured that she could win as long as she didn't get hit with that right hook. And I mean, she came close. I mean, there was sometimes that we were very worried as a fan, and you just really didn't know which way the fight was going to go because it swung one way and then right back to the other in the matter of a couple of seconds and a couple of shots. But she was able to defend her title successfully and add another ruby to her belt. Now, the fight that everybody just wanted to see, Aljamain Sterling, Aljo versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Now, there's a lot of controversy around Sugar Sean because a lot of people feel he was protected to get to this point. They wanted him, obviously, to be the face of UFC. There's no question about it. Not just with the way he was scheduled and booked on his fights, but because, I mean, let's face it, you have a fighter who has a great following and great fans, and the O'Malley fan club shows out all the time and supports him online or at the octagon. And why wouldn't you want that to be your face? So there was a lot of talk going in about how he had the easy way. Eventually, he still got it done. I mean, you still got to win the fights, and he did, besides one that we'll get into later. But O'Malley was able to do it. Now, I use this term. We weren't surprised with how it's done, but we were surprised that it was done. Now, a lot of people felt that Sterling would just lay on the ground and continue to wrestle and win it that way and possibly get him on his back, wear him like a backpack, wear him down, then catch him slipping. A lot of people felt that. But everybody knew if O'Malley was going to win, he was going to have to knock him out. Regardless of what, he was going to have to knock him out. And I love it when I see clips of fighters going through sequences in the work in the pre-fight workout, and they are waiting and they're doing the sequence, and it turns out to be that sequence that wins him the fight. And that's exactly what happened with Sugar Sean O'Malley. Was he was able to just know exactly what he was going to do in that very moment. And that's ultimately why he was able to get the victory. He was able to take the bantamweight championship from Aljo Sterling, who I haven't heard anything to refute his remarks before about him moving up a weight class and going after Volk. So as of now, Sterling is now done. Now I expected him to retire and vacate that belt in that weight class, not retire, but vacate that belt. I expected him to go out as one of the best bantamweights ever, and he still will. But I was expecting him to get this win. I didn't think O'Malley would quite get it done, but he had to step back. He stepped back, right hand, and that was it, and then got on top of him. Now, many people argue, oh, it was an early stoppage, and he was hitting him in the head. Now, I can see somewhat of the argument of the early stoppage, but Aljo wasn't doing much. He wasn't. He was just going around in circles on the floor. Yeah, he was trying to protect himself, but there's times he wasn't. So it is an iffy one, but he put the pressure on, and O'Malley did deserve this win. And he called out Gervonta Davis, Tank, who fought and beat Ryan Garcia, and who's a 3 weight class world champion in a boxing match. Now, this is something that he definitely talked about leading into the fight, but he said himself, it's only going to happen if I win. And he was able to get the win and called him out. But as far as what's next for O'Malley in the octagon, I believe it's going to be Chito Vera. Marab and O'Malley, I don't see fighting each other. They train together. I don't see them fighting each other in the octagon anytime soon, if ever. So Chito, with the history of Chito being the only one to beat O'Malley, even though O'Malley suffered an injury during that fight, and there's the controversy with that alone. This one has more drama. This one's going to sell. And O'Malley already said he wants it done in December. Now, if Cheeto's willing to go in December, I believe that's going to be the next matchup, and the first title defense for O'Malley is going to be against Marlon Chito Vera. Now, the last story I want to talk about from UFC 292 is Chris Weidman. He came back from one of the sickest injuries in sports. You know, a lot of people would never even attempt to come back from an injury like that. And also, a lot of people watching it got sick, including my wife. When I showed her the injury, she just couldn't believe that this guy was coming back from that type of injury. And he had his hands full against a very young and very established Brad Tavares. And Tavares, he found his legs early. He definitely messed his legs up to the point where Chris was visibly upset. You can see him pointing at him, talking mess to him. Basically, I feel telling him, let's box. Like, quit going after my legs. You really want to win that way? And ultimately, Brad got the unanimous decision. And I just got to say this. Chris Weidman possibly tore an ACL and MCL or both. And I just got to say this, Chris. I appreciate your heart, your warrior mentality, but now you're looking at another year of rehabbing these injuries before you can get back into octagon. You've won substantially. You've lost some bad fights, but more importantly, I feel like your body failed you this fight. Your body did. You had it, but your body just couldn't hold up. And I'm with Dana. I think it is time Chris Weidman retires and goes on to the next phases of his life, because I do not believe another fight will end any better than what this Brad Tavares fight did. Now, shifting over to baseball, Julio Rodriguez, J-Rod, is putting on a show in Seattle. This dude is the hottest hitting player all season. This guy is absolutely crazy how good he's been swinging the ball in the past week alone, much less over the span of his career. He's an all-star already. He became the face of the franchise when he came up. He is the guy in Seattle. But I hate to break it to you, Seattle fans. You are wasting him. Seattle, I get that y'all were trying to sway Ohtani and chant Ohtani at the All-Star game, and you're hoping and trying to do what you can do as fans to kind of sway his decision. But Ohtani wants postseason. And although you have young pitchers in Seattle that have potential, great potential, I should say, I just don't see it being that organization. And so I believe J-Rod while he's in Seattle, all these records, all the time that he's going to put up, all the numbers he's going to put up, it's going to be as worthless as Mike Trout's. Let's face it. Mike Trout was the best baseball player in baseball until Ohtani came. And now the Angels have both, and they've wasted them where they don't really matter anymore. And I fear that is what is going to happen with Julio Rodriguez. Although I could be wrong. I mean, they went to the postseason last year. They at least got a postseason game at home. But let's face it, the Mariners, they didn't do quite what many people were expecting. They didn't get out to the best of start this season. Now, nobody was really expecting them to win the division, but many were expecting them to have a legit shot at the division and be comfortably in a wild card. So although there is some success there, it's not where it needs to be. And it's not going to get where it needs to be for J Rod because it's just not working out and it's never will. I'm sorry, Mariners fans. I'm sorry. I just got to tell it how it is. And that is how it is with Julio Rodriguez. On the bright side of teams that have been able to turn things around, the Cubs. Now, the Cubs, if they don't have that winning streak going into the trade deadline, they're probably sellers instead of buyers. Instead, they went out and got Jaimir Candelario, who was a big acquisition for him, and have turned things around in that clubhouse. And that's just crazy to think because now this is a team with a walk-off win, walked right into a wild card spot, and isn't that far out of the division race. A good week, you could be there. But just think about this for a second. The Cubs are a team that going in a week before the trade deadline, they didn't really think they had a shot. They were going to give it in. A lot of fans wanted them to mail it in already. But because of those little that little winning streak and those games that were played that they found a way to win leading into the trade deadline, office said we may have something here. And it's definitely paid off for them. They've walked right into a wild card spot and right in the hunt. So although you like to praise teams when they get it wrong, just like the Angels did this year, going after trying to be buyers and it just not working out and going absolutely terrible after the trade deadline. It's nice to give praise to these teams that seem to win the lottery, win that trade deadline. And the Chicago Cubs are it. I mean, you can't beat it. They have worked their way into this. And I'm not saying the trade deadline alone is why they're here. They obviously won games before. But if they go out there and they sell Stroman, they sell other players, they sell Belly, there's no way they're here right now. So props to the Chicago Cubs front office for staying true to what you felt like could be done and believing in what you have going on in Chicago. Another thing that I want to talk about real quick is the Victus baseball bats. I hope you look this up. Victus, Victus. These bats are amazing. The designs are so cool. I wish they had these bats back when I played. I'm still contemplating just getting one to get one. But they just released the number 2 pencil bat. Now, this thing looks like you're in a baseball game. Matt, MLB 23, the show, it looks like you're playing a game and you just created this bat. You earned the rewards to get this kind of bat. It looked amazing. And it was showcased by a Phillies player in the Philly and Nationals Little League Classic game. And what better game and time to debut a bat like this in a game than the Little League World Series Classic. It was such a great moment. It was awesome to see. Check out the bat. Like I said, Victus, Victus. They don't sponsor us at all. Although if you know somebody, let them know we're open to business. But check them out. These bats are amazing. These bats look amazing. They have different ideas and different designs and some locked away in vaults that they haven't quite released yet. If you remember Julio Rodriguez, who we talked about earlier, his bats are Victus, and he had amazing looking bats at the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby. So give him a look. Number 2 pencil bat. It's amazing. And also, while we're talking about this subject and the Phillies, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and some other Phillies were there actually cheering on the Pennsylvania team that was in the Little League World Series. I mean, how cool for them kids to see who they root for every day turn around and root for them during their tournament. So, I mean, props to them. Definitely made more memories and unlocked core memories for them kids as they got to look in the stands and see their heroes cheering them on. We're going to shift back to some standings and Texas Rangers. Come on, man. I thought when Young went down, I thought y'all were done, honestly. I thought y'all were going to start to fall off, but y'all haven't quite. And I say quite because I got to double down, y'all. I cannot give in to the Texas Rangers right now. I can't do it. It's already too late. I'm committed. The Astros, I still say, are going to win the division. It's getting close. It didn't help that the Astros lost a couple to the Mariners this past weekend, including yesterday on Sunday they lost. But they're 2.5 games out. There's still plenty of baseball. That's a weak, hot spot right there for a team, or a cold spot for the Rangers to get back into. It's close. It's close. But I won't lie, I didn't think the Rangers would be here this late. I did not think they'd be here this late. I honestly felt that it was going to happen sooner. But if I got to wait this long for the Astros to come back and win the division, then so be it, because that's what's going to happen, y'all. And I mean, let's just keep with the good news, I guess, because the Astros are going to win. So I guess that's good news. Yankees fall below 500 for the first time this late into a season since September 5th, 1995. The Yankees, who have one of the two highest payrolls in baseball and have all these superstar names, are below 500. Now, I will say that division is one of the best divisions, so they're still right there. If they were in the AL Central, shoot, they would be in the playoffs, but the AL East is a crazy good division this year. But I won't lie. If it's the Yankees or if it's the Dodgers and they lose, I'm happy. I don't like the big market teams. I don't like spending the money. So when this happens, I can't help but smile. It's something about it. I'm not a Yankee fan at all. I despise them just like I do the Dodgers. But when you have that much talent, you got to do something. And I'm sorry, but Boone is not your guy. Boone has made some ridiculous statements in the past. He cannot do the PR that you want as a Yankee ball club, and he cannot get these players to buy in. And there's a lot of players coming up in the minor leagues that have left the Yankee organization. I've talked about they are not teaching baseball in the minor leagues, so there's no player development. So Yankees, you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to get back to that Yankee way, because as of now, I'm sorry, but there is no Yankee way. The Yankee way died many, many years ago. But it's always good, right? It's always good when a high payroll team flops. I mean, it makes it nice, especially for the low budget teams. But unless you're the Rays, you're kind of iffy. Your top pitchers have had some issues. McClanahan's now getting Tommy John. And Wander Franco, I'm not going to talk too much on him because we don't really know what's going on with him. But what we will say is we need more information. If you aren't aware of Wander Franco, the supposed to be Ray superstar, look it up. It's disturbing if it is true, but there just has to be more information before we could really get into it. Now going into fighting in practice, the football fights with your team against another team. Now, I feel different ways about this, to be completely honest with you. I agree. You need some kind of mentality of, hey, we're competing. We're competing. We got this drive. We're determined to get it done, regardless of who it is. Who it is against, a teammate, whatever, we're going to get it done. So I get it. You want some of that animosity going into the season. Just like Deion Sanders, I'll start with him. He actually got upset at a couple of his linemen because they walked away from a fight. He said, when one of us fights, we all fight. Now, I think this was blown out of context. I get where he was coming from. I think the Karens of the world kind of blew this out of context and started crying about things, to be honest with you. But I get it. Like, you want everybody to have each other's back. You don't want everybody to go out there and throw haymakers just for the fun of it, to be honest. But you want people to have each other's backs. So I completely agree with them. Now, like I said, it was blown out of context. Karens of the world got a hold of it and ran with it. But what he did isn't wrong. I believe that 100%. But there is a fine line, and that fine line is what I'm going to talk about next with the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, they've had a few fights and a few too many, that many would say. I think it's one away from being too many, but I think the important thing of what's going on in these fights is what makes it disturbing. Now, I'm not saying this just because I'm not a Cowboys fan, but because a Cowboys fan will tell me, oh, no, you want that fight. You just said it. You want it. And I get it. Okay, you're right. I did just say that. But if I'm the leader of a team and I'm a coach of a team and I'm saying we're gonna have this animosity, you're gonna fight, like it is what it is, you're not gonna call your quarterback, who's a captain, the B word multiple times. You're not going to. That right there is a no. That shows the coach has no leadership, no control over this team. The players have no control over each other, and they have no respect for somebody who's a captain. So the fact that you have your quarterback, who you invest in money, who you've invested years in, who's supposed to be the captain and leader of this team and have everybody fall in line behind him, is being called profanity names in front of others and completely disrespected on the football field, that's a no-no. That does not fly. That is not anything to be proud of. That is not anything that can slide in my program. So for a Cowboy fan, you should be concerned, because this right here, this shouldn't be happening. This is not what we're talking about, competitive edge. This is not what we're talking about, determination. This is not what we're talking about, the want and the will. This is flat out not liking each other. This is flat out disrespectful. And if you have that, your locker room will be eaten from the inside out. But like I said, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I don't expect much from them any year. So you may think I'm just blowing smoke up your butt because I am not a Cowboys fan, but think about it from a coaching perspective. Think about it from a work perspective. You don't have the captain being respected the way that he should, regardless of his play. He's there. He shows up every time. He ain't a Menzel and Vegas party. And you're going to do that in front of other people? No, there's a more in-depth issue going on in that locker room. And to finish this show, I'm going to go ahead and kind of end it on a lighter note. We're going, and Texas high school football gets underway this week, and a lot of good matchups here in the San Antonio area. You're going to get that in the big cities in Texas. You're going to get those big time matchups, as you are going to want to see where you are early in the year. You want to get those things done before you hit district and before you start going into getting ready for the playoffs. So mine, and I'm a little biased because of where I live, but I'm gonna say my game of the week is the Battle of the 1604, and that is Somerset Bulldogs versus Southside Cardinals. Both teams had good runs last season. Both teams are projected to do big things this season. This is my game of the week. If you have a game of the week, go to the Victor Sports Talk Facebook page. Go Legacy Maker Facebook page. Go Legacy Maker Instagram, and tell me your game of the week. Tell me where they're playing, where you want to be, where you are, and what game I should keep an eye out on, who I should look up the scores for, because I plan on keeping up with high school football a little more in depthly, especially here in Texas this season. And that kind of segues me into my big announcement next. The big announcement this season for Victor Sports Talk is every Thursday, we will be hosting a coach, hope preferably a football coach during the season. We're going to try to keep it football, but eventually this segment will be a place where an aspiring coach or a fan of an organization, a high school, a middle school, a college, or just your average Joe who wants to see how a program is ran can come and listen to these coaches on Victor Sports Talk, the Coaches Report, on Thursdays, and listen to them about what made them go into coaching, because no coaching journey is the same. Absolutely not. Just like nobody's life is the same as another. Everybody has their own journey. And what makes up their mentality, and what do they focus on in their organization, and how do they build a program, and how do they look to hire people? This is what the coaches report is for, is to get a more in-depth insight into what coaches want, what coaches expect, and ultimately what led them to be where they're at today. And we kick off this week with my old coach, athletic director, former athletic director at Merkel, former athletic director at Tohoka High School, and now athletic director and head football coach at Sudan High School in Sudan, Texas. John Cornelius will join us this week and be our inaugural guest on the Coach's Report. And you're not going to want to miss it. Coach Corn, he comes from a long line of coaches, and his dad is a Texas high school football legend in six man. You heard me right, six man. So this guy, he has a lot of insight. He has a lot of perception on the way he views sports, not just football, but sports in general. And he's built programs and athletic departments and have went on to be successful in everything. So you're not going to want to miss this first episode. And if you know anybody who's a coach or you're a coach yourself and want to recommend somebody to be on the podcast, feel free to comment, message Legacy Maker Sports Network or me, myself at Victor D. Herrera at Facebook or Victor Sports Talk on Facebook, and let us know that you want to be a guest and we'll get something going. But until then, thank y'all for watching and thank y'all for sharing Victor Sports Talk. Until next week, don't touch my sports.